for. I have no idea where that came from. All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Any motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes for the April 25th, 2019 meeting?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we're moving on to patron comments, and we do have a patron comment tonight. So I'm going to read this little section here. So during patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning issues related to the school district. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please know that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comment at a later time via phone call or written message if a response is needed. We have a table with microphones ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patron comments clearly. Board meeting proceedings are also recorded and posted on Rockwood's YouTube channel. So this evening, again, we do have a patron comment. So we welcome Barbara Frazier to step forward. Welcome.
Madam President and board members, Dr. Knost, I have a proclamation here for you. So if I may I step in front?
Sure.
And am I speaking loudly enough? Is everyone here?
Probably because we.
Okay, so I'm going to have to do this. Here we go. Testing. So, whereas Dr. Eric Knost has served as an educational leader in St. Louis County for 31 years in the Rockwood, Melville, Parkway school districts, and will now bring his many gifts and talents to a new community. And whereas Dr. Knost began his career as a director of bands in the Rockwood School District in 1989, and 5 years ago he came back to serve as superintendent of the Rockwood School District. And whereas Dr. Knost understands that relationships between teachers and students are at the heart of learning, and whereas Dr. Knost's leadership, Rockwood School District passed 2 bond issues to fund innovative learning projects, and whereas Dr. Knost has been an outspoken advocate for the students with a priority on their social, emotional, and physical health, and he has continually focused on safety as he has managed incidents of local flooding and national crisis that put the spotlight on school safety. And whereas Dr. Knost has been committed to a balanced budget, and he saved Rockwood School District more than $500,000 annually, and whereas Dr. Knost enjoys spending time with his wife of 23 years, Julie, and their 2 daughters, Amy and Kaylin, and he still loves to play music. Therefore, Sam Page, St. Louis County Executive, on behalf of the people of St. Louis County, thank Dr. Knost for his many years of service to our community, and does hereby proclaim, drum roll everyone, Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, as Dr. Eric Knost Day. Congratulations.
But thank you very much for doing that. That was fantastic. Yes, so next is Superintendent Board comments. So you know who he is. I'll let him speak.
Barb, thank you. That's really, really special. It was fun to hear you read all that. I have to say this though, just publicly, because if I don't, it won't be on record. My wife and I have actually been married 25 years. I just, I don't want her to be reading this thing. Wait, 2019. So, but anyway, that's fine. And this is beautiful. And also, just to be clear too, obviously this is St. Louis County. I actually started my career in Jefferson County, in the Windsor School District. I was a teacher there, and I was kind of recruited to come out to Rockwood in my second year. So there was that little bit of a jump start for me. But clearly, as I've said in my retirement announcement, I've spent more years in Rockwood than any other district. So this is it's a challenging time for me, no doubt about it. I am unbelievably excited about where I'm going, and every time I visit, I am just anxious, and the people are so kind and great to me where I'm going, as they always have been. So it's a weird dynamic where I'm so excited about that, but I have no interest in wrapping up here. And you put those two things together, and it just makes for a really weird time in my life. So I appreciate how kind everyone's being, and I really appreciate our principals. For a while there, we were getting on a roll where I would show up, and it would be a farewell. And with the help of Dave Cobb and Lisa and Janet, they really called those things off. So I can just show up at schools, and it feels normal. It doesn't feel like every day I'm saying goodbye. And people say, well, we're going to miss you. And I think, all you all have to do is miss one person. I have to miss thousands, of so here I am, and let's move on, because it's hard.
But you'll
and,
miss us most.
Yes, absolutely. All right, thank you, Barb. Thank you so very much. Let's mention a few other really good things. Hopefully you all knew and were able to visit the annual Rockwood School District Art Show that took place last weekend, again at St. Louis Community College at Wildwood. I think that's the second year we've had it there, correct? Such a great venue for that, and really resolved some issues of rotating it around at some of our campuses where traffic, like on New Baldwin Road, or even traffic there at Wildwood Middle. So 7,000 pieces of Rockwood student art were on display. Just think about that, 7,000. Huge turnout. Megan Meyer, our fine arts coordinator, thought it was a great success. And she points out that it does not just represent the best of the best. Our teachers use different criteria to showcase Rockwood's art curriculum, including ceramics, painting, drawing, and fiber work. If you attend the event, and if you catch students there with their families, you see a sense of pride, and you can tell there's all different levels of I guess expertise, you might say, or talent with the kids, but they understand there's a reason that their work is there and it's on display. So it's a wonderful event, and I hope Rockwood continues that in perpetuity, because it's a fabulous place, fabulous event. Let's see, Eureka High School alums from across the decades and across the county gathered on April 27th to celebrate their common educational heritage. We think about 170 people that dated back as far as 1943. The class of 1943 came together for a luncheon in the Eureka High School Commons. Linda Carr, who was the class of 1966, was one of the organizers. She stated that Eureka High School Alumni Reunion has been going on intermittently since the 1930s. So very, very, very cool thing. A lot of history. We've had a couple of years where, of course, this at one point in time was one of the old Eureka buildings, both here and next door. High school, junior high, we're in a gym. In reality, we're in a gym, but we forget those things, how things evolve and change. But that's exciting. A lot of history with the Eureka area. Let's see, the Rockwood students who use their creativity to promote a drug-free lifestyle are being recognized by the Rockwood Drug-Free Coalition. 6 students from Eureka High School and Selvage Middle School are being recognized for their work. Their winning posters will be displayed at schools, city halls, recreation centers, churches, Six Flags, and local TV stations. It's a neat contest, and it's a great way for the Drug-Free Coalition to stay not only a group just getting together and strategizing and talking about the epidemic with opioids and drinking and whatnot, but also to let kids be involved in that work, and this is one way that they're able to do that. So congratulations to those students. And finally, fashion students. This is why Alex is not here, right? Because Alex had to bolt out of here and run to cover this. But fashion students from Rockwood High Schools are making a bold statement this evening when their designs hit the runway at the district's inaugural fashion show. I wish we could have all been there. That would really, it sounds like a great thing. The fashion show is taking place right now in the Lafayette High School Commons. The theme for this inaugural year is Fusion, and it's showcasing student-made creations from the Family and Consumer Science fashion construction courses offered at all 4 high schools. Another great event that I think will become a staple in what makes Rockwood such a fabulous place. So we'll hear, I'm sure, more about that from Alex in the near future. I'm sure he's writing something about it right now. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Great, thank you. Board comments?
Well, yeah, I do. U.S. News and World Report, if you haven't seen it, ranked the top 10 high schools in the state of Missouri. And this is the first ever I've ever seen of this. But number 1 was Lafayette. Number 3 was Rockwood Summit. Number 4 was Eureka. And number 8 was Marquette. All 4 of our high schools made the top 10. First time ever. U.S. News and World Report. They have a different way of evaluating than some other ones, but it's a very quality type evaluation. And as having connections to all 4 of the high schools, I couldn't be more proud. And you should also be very proud of what the 4 high schools have accomplished in Rockwood.
Every year we've got we usually have a few of our schools in that top 10. They're always listed in there, but in the top 10. So the first year to have all 4 was pretty exciting to see that.
Anything else? All right, very good. All right, next we need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
There is one item tonight on the donations. This is a familiar one, familiar name, Jim Macaluso. He's donated probably 10 or 12 times, but he has another non-monetary one tonight, $4,500, to benefit the biodiesel program at Rockwood Summit High School. Donations of a gray 2006 Volkswagen Jetta to the Rockwood Summit High School biodiesel program. Thank you very much, Jim.
Else? All right, so the motion is to approve the consent agenda items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that passes. All right, moving on to the agenda items. This is going to be great. We have the COPE committee that has brought us authentic science research. So we have the coordinator of science 6 through 12, Dr. Megan Bray. We have Marquette High School teacher, Dr. Kathy Farr, and students from Eureka, Marquette, and Rockwood Summit. So they're going to give us a presentation. Welcome.
Just want to come up with me? All right, so we have a few students here from Authentic Science Research, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the program, and then Dr. Kathy Farrar will tell you a little bit more. So Authentic Science Research right now is a series of 3 courses, and these students go through and learn about research methodology and how to carry out research, and they actually pick their research based upon their student interests. So they figure out what they're interested in as far as science. Sometimes it's more social science, sometimes it's more your hard sciences. And then they reach out and get a mentor in the field, and they work with that mentor to collect research and carry out research, and then they present at various science symposiums within Rockwood and sometimes outside of Rockwood.
So this is an interesting course, other than it's really student driven, but it is measured in student outcomes that are things they can take forward into college or career. And so it's kind of a merge between hard skills and soft skills. And so they learn a lot of things about just basic research methodology, some basic statistics. They learn about how science research is done, and also how we would not normally think of science research, but in marketing, how science research it fits in there, how when we look at in math, how statistics fits in. And the kids a lot of times will say that what they learn in ASR applies very nicely into their statistics class or even in their marketing class. They learn how to design and conduct an experiment. Those are both in group and in individuals. Then they learn a lot about presenting information, orally, written, in poster format, and we have an example of that here today. And the topics are not limited to science, so they really do get to pick anything. This year we had a student who looked at skepticism in marketing and whether online marketing or in paper marketing was more likely to engender skepticism. We had someone who was working with scientists at NASA looking at Martian soil. We had a student who was looking at if interactions were influenced at all by the ethnicity of the individual. So there's lots of variety in the way that they approach the research, but they go through the whole IRB process. So they go through the whole scientific process. So when they go to college and they get involved in research, they're not afraid of it. So that's kind of something they can take with them. In addition to that, they learn how to network. They build those college and career readiness skills, and then they have an appreciation for how to do it, but also kind of that knowing that they can, that fearlessness that's only earned by doing it.
And then I just want to provide a little bit of an update. So the Rockwood School District, we applied to be part of the AP Capstone program. And the AP Capstone program is very similar to and really mirrors the program that we have with Authentic Science Research. And it's a two-part program. The first one's AP Seminar, and the second course is AP Research. And students can get credit for those AP courses. And if they take both of those AP courses plus any other 4 AP exams, they can actually get an AP Capstone diploma that they can kind of carry with them to college, something to put on a resume, that sort of thing. So enough of me and Dr. Farrar talking. The people that you really want to see are our students. We have Max from Rockwood Summit, we have Rinda from Marquette, and Rowan from Eureka.
Thank you. Am I just going to speak about
your research.
Okay, my name is Max Driver. As you can see, I go to school at Rockwood Summit. I am currently in ASR 2. My project was, as the title is, an analysis on the effects of colloidal metals on E. coli, which was a topic that I've always liked microbiology. It's something that's always really interested me, and I wanted to make my career based on that. Where I saw ASR as was a way that I could, because as they had said earlier, you can make your own experiment, and not only just go through with the experiment, but completely through, not just do the experiment, maybe write a lab report. It's writing a lab report, making a poster, presenting all of it, reaching out. And it's something that you don't get in other classrooms, such as whatever other classroom that has labs in it. And that's what makes it special to me. Interestingly, I found out that there wasn't an effect. But with that, I sort of twisted it on its head. And what a lot of these colloidal metal companies, what they say is that it's sort of like a miracle cure-all, like that this colloidal silver, it reverses early cataracts, it cures back pain. But and all of those claims have been refuted by other scientific studies. But what I found specifically is that even if you apply it directly to a bacteria, it has no effect on it, at least in the concentrations that they sell, which really puts a statement out as to the validity of the claims that they make.
Are these all approved by these colloidal metals? Are they approved by anybody, or is just they're out there?
It's pretty much they just say that they do, and because they don't actually, they sell them as a sort of supplement, where they're not as highly regulated.
There's an Escherichia coli.
It's just the longer name for E. coli.
Oh, E.
It's just
coli,
a
okay.
type of bacteria.
That was impressive.
Scientific.
Longer name.
Yeah.
I want to ask all three of you. I'm a little confused. You take a course 1 year, and that is just introduction to research. Is that what it is? And you pick
Well,
your topic?
It's sort of over the course of for example, for me, it was ASR 1 was sort of getting a general guideline on what you wanted to do, whereas ASR 2 and ASR 3 is going through with that, doing the experiment, making the lab report. It's really detailed, and it goes through all those years.
Do you take tests at the end of each year?
Yes.
An AP test, and if you make a 3, 4, or 5, that gives you college credit?
We haven't taken any AP tests,
Oh.
as far as I know.
Okay, will they get 3 credits for college, or 6 or 9? How does that work out? It depends on what?
On the AP, it depends on the college, because it depends on if they take it as elective credit, or in some colleges they take it as research credit. And so it just depends on the college, how many credits they offer for that.
Great.
Max, I'm going to give you an opportunity here, but don't try not to talk over our heads in answering this. But I'm just curious, having done research, how did you test this? What was and again, keep it okay.
I
Yeah.
understand. So last year, I actually did a project that was sort of similar to this. What I did, so I took the bacteria. I had a sample that I purchased online. I would take that and I would spread it onto an agar plate, which allows for like the bacteria to grow on its own. So last year, what I did, I spread them onto the agar plates, and then I placed an antibiotic disc right in the center. And as it grew, you can see these circles around the antibiotic discs, where you could see that the growth of the bacteria was stagnated as it can progress through its life. And I essentially took that same test and replaced the antibiotics with colloidal metals. In this case, colloidal silver, colloidal copper, and colloidal gold.
Okay.
And then you could measure the circles, and depending on their diameter, to see if they were more or less effective.
That became a quantified
Yes.
measure. And what test did you use with those quantifications?
Typically, you could just compare the diameters to see which were more or less effective. It was easy for me this year because I had no results, where there wasn't really much analysis
Oh,
that had to go
gotcha,
on with
yeah.
that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rin Cola, and I'm a junior at Marquette High School. I'm currently enrolled in Authentic Science Research 2 with Dr. Kathy Farrar. Taking ASR is probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my high school career. It's giving me the chance to use my math skills, science skills, problem-solving skills, and even creativity in real-world situations. It's also giving me lots of experiences that I could do without even, it's given me so many opportunities that I wouldn't be able to do without taking this class. For example, I went to the symposium in Mizzou at S&T, and I presented my research here, which were the psychological factors of vitiligo patients and correlating those psychological factors with people who have depression. I used Maslow's hierarchy of needs and RIF psychological well-being scale to determine their scale of well-being. Not only has this class given me so many different skills to learn from, it also has allowed me to write college-level science papers and knowing how to use statistical analysis. Apart from independent research, we also do group activities and group labs. We've even observed plants from a Danforth Plant Center. It's one of my favorite classes at Marquette, and I just love it so much. So my study, I wanted to see if there was some kind of relating factor between people who had vitiligo and people who had depression, and if there was some kind of correlation or link with their well-being and their psychological well-being. And what I actually found is that they both have a lower scale of well-being than people who don't have depression or vitiligo. With depression being, people who have depression having a lower well-being than people with vitiligo. Vitiligo is a skin disease, the Michael Jackson disease, where white patches occur around the skin. To collect my data, I made a survey based off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and RIF psychological well-being scale. For example, I would provide a statement like, I am willing to take time for others, and the participant would either say 1, they strongly disagree, or click 5, which they strongly agree. And I had 35 of those statements, and I used that to do my analysis and get my results.
What kind of results did you get? I'm sorry.
I found that people who had vitiligo and people who had depression had a lower well-being than people who don't have vitiligo or depression.
What was your hypothesis?
My hypothesis was that there would be that they would have a lower well-being.
Did you, as far as to figure out if it was on different parts of the body where they would affect them more?
Vitiligo? That is a very good question, and I mostly focused on the psychological factors of people who had vitiligo, but with my own personal experience, vitiligo can occur on different parts of the body, but it's mostly eyes, elbows, knees.
Okay. Looks really great.
See, you use t-test. Did you?
Yes.
I was kind of going to go this route with Max too, but do you do all of your own statistical?
I do, with obviously help from Dr. Farrar. But we do, in the class itself, we do different activities to help us understand how to do the statistical analysis, and then we can apply that knowledge with our own research.
Was there a reason you picked t-test?
Well, since I was working with means, I did an unpaired sample independent t-test.
Wonderful. Ready for graduate work.
We have a couple openings at Maryville if you want to apply.
All right.
Awesome. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Hi, Rowan.
I'm Rowan Peckham. I'm a sophomore at Eureka High School, and I'm currently enrolled in Authentic Science Research 1. Now, I was going to start this quick presentation with an intro, but what I actually want to communicate to you is that I am enrolled in an early college program, and this is the class. This class is so important to me that I'm coming back to Eureka to take it next year. That this is the one class that I get to choose to come back to Eureka High School and take. That is the power of this course. Now, I'm only in Authentic Science Research 1, but the items that I've learned, the information that I've learned through this class has helped me in every single other class in the math and science kind of group, in the STEM group in academia. What I actually researched was mobile phone use and social media use. Now, raise your hand if you have a mobile phone. All right, well, roughly 96% of American teenagers own or have access to a mobile cell phone right now. And what we're seeing with this growing statistic is depression rates are skyrocketing, suicide rates are skyrocketing, and people are correlating in the science field this rise to the rise in mobile phone usage. So what I was thinking is, hey, I haven't seen in all of my research a good dissection, essentially, of the modern American high school. That we don't really have a good picture of what we're looking at right now with this issue, and we don't know how to effectively help students in a learning environment with this new technology that we really don't know the effects of yet. So what I did with my research is I'm only in Authentic Science Research 1, so what I wanted to do is kind of make this research project long-term. I'm currently working with the district, and I will be meeting with them sometime this May to collaborate with them on a 3-part data collections set to start in the next school year. And what I'm aiming to do is scan for stuff like social media addiction, cell phone addiction, how often our teenagers are using their phones, what they're using their phones for, how isolated they feel on and off their phones, and compare that data to previous data that's been recorded before this and my own data that I've collected prior. Essentially, this semester, though, has been all just creating this idea, creating this concept, and getting it out there. So I only got the chance to collect preliminary data just to test how my data collection system works. And so I don't have anything to show for it, but I'm getting there, and I'm looking at doing this next year and the year after that, and I want to pursue this until my senior year. My hypothesis is there will be a correlation between different demographics of students and social media addiction, cell phone use, cell phone addiction, stuff like that. So I will be comparing social media usage and addiction, social media usage and depression. I will be correlating both of those factors to factors like sleep, factors like how well you're performing academically, factors like how isolated you feel from your peers, and just basic questions like, for example, have you communicated more with a person in person or on the phone today? Or have you used your phone to get out of social situations at school or at home? Stuff like that. Do you compare yourself to other people when you're using social media? Stuff like that.
So you tested your collection
Yes.
efforts.
So because I
Just to
want
see
to
if
keep
they
this,
work.
Yes, to see if they work. Because I didn't want to get too far into this if it wasn't plausible on a large scale. I want to keep the anonymity of everybody in the district because that's obviously an issue. You can't be screening for depressions, screening for cell phone addiction, and talking about some deeper topics like this, and have everybody's names on some paper somewhere. So what I did is I assigned the people that I got to take my preliminary test a randomly generated number that is unique to them and them alone. They put it in at the beginning of the survey in a little box at the top, and then all of their surveys can be linked by that number. Not the name, not any sort of registered email or anything, just that number. And I can administer those randomly through the email that the email correspondence that they sign up for or anything like that. That's the best way to connect all of my data to make sure that it's all accurate or as accurate as possible and ensure the anonymity of everybody who takes it.
So is it going to be qualitative in nature? Are you going to do like Rinda and put it into a Likert scale
So
kind of
what
a
I'm
survey?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is first I need to get the data, and I want to run, I think it's called a t-test, to determine if there is a reasonable difference between people who use their phones maybe 2 or 3 hours a day versus people who use their phones 3 or 4 hours a day, 5 or 6, 6 or 7, and their levels of definable depression, their levels of definable isolation, their sleep levels, stuff like that.
You're going to quantify.
Yeah, I will
the
quantify
response.
this, yes.
Yeah.
Have you thought ahead in your research, or found anything in your research, on what's going to replace the iPhone down the road and what effect that'll have?
So
To get ahead of yourself.
yeah, we're jumping the gun a little bit on that one. We don't even have an idea of how the technology we have right now is affecting us. And the second we can figure that out, it'll change, obviously, because
Sure.
that's how stuff works.
But you don't have a speculation on what it's going to be yet.
It's only getting worse based on the data that I've collected and the research that I've done. It's only going to get worse. So I feel like we could project these numbers that we collect over the course of these next 2 years forwards, and kind of map that.
Thank you.
It's not a requirement to take province stats before this class. So you have the full umbrella gamut of this.
So in my current class, I have 25 students in my ASR1 class, and I think 7 of them are freshmen. They've never had any kind of stats. And I teach them correlations, t-test, independent samples t-test, one sample t-test, We do paired sample t-test, and we do all your descriptive statistics. And we do this with a program called SPSS because a lot of times learning a test in context makes it so much easier to understand.
Sure.
And so we collect data, we practice, they see where the data is coming from, they run the test so they understand the test, and then they learn how to interpret the test. So when it comes to doing their project, I had no help whatsoever on actually running the test. I helped in advance. Then they make their poster, they send me their poster, and I say, whoops, you didn't really interpret that correctly. Go back and look at your numbers again. And then they go back and they're like, oh yeah, I see what I did wrong. Or I'll say, go back and look at the Paul or Dan book in page whatever, and then they go back and look and they'll report it correctly. So my job is to build the skills so that they can then do the work. And that's kind of the way I treat my class. Now, I have a strong stats background, but not every teacher does, so you're going to see variances across the high schools in that respect.
I think there's some real value to that, though, because, you know, I'm not going to teach you anything you don't know here. I know Dr. Farrar will concur with what I say. That in the, you know, when you read digest and magazines, and especially in the education world, and everything's based on research, so often the people doing the research are so well versed, or they have a statistician that's so well versed that they're going to design that in a way to run tests so they're not going to have a null hypothesis. So they're going to design it to prove their point. And in a sense, to me, that's useless research. But what you've had to do alongside this is to really understand and learn the stats process that's giving you a more genuine result and a more genuine approach to doing research, where you're really inquisitive and you know, wanting to know the outcome to see what it teaches you. So I think it's good in that. I'm glad that I'm glad you didn't say yes, they have to have proven stats, which I knew the answer, but I wanted to just hear that because that was a good point to discuss. I think it's great, and I tell you what, had I a course like this in high school, it would have made, not college, it would have made graduate school a lot easier. Director Bays can concur. We both had a graduate level prob and stats course together. Yeah, we won't mention we couldn't use our calculators, but anyway, but that's wonderful. I have one more question. I'm going to be quiet because this is for the board, but I love this. You guys did a great job. I admire you. I admire the work you do. You mentioned the IRB process. What does that look like for them? I mean, who's the internal review?
At our school, I'm just going to speak for at my school.
Sure.
They write a proposal, and the proposal has to include an introduction that includes, it's an actual lit review, so it's supported by research. It includes their basic methodology, what they plan to do, including a hypothesis. It includes a budget. It includes a timeline. It includes a reference section. I read it. Another science teacher reads it. We give them feedback. Once we approve it, if any individual, like human, is involved, the nurse reads it, the social worker reads it. Once they approve it, it goes to Dr. Matheson. He reads every one of them, and then he would approve it. If it is something where the student is doing some kind of an activity, then the school trainer reads it to make sure that there's nobody that's going to get injured. Anytime there's a survey involved, it goes through the social worker to make sure, or a counselor, to make sure that no question is being phrased in a way that might compromise student identity or maybe broach a question that might be causing issues one way or the other for the school, for the student researcher, for the students that are responding to it. My students all learn how to write a consent letter for both adults and for students, and so they have to get informed consent in order to use any kind of human participant. When they do work with bacteria or hazardous any kind of materials, they have to go through that kind of an IRB process. It's a pretty lengthy process.
It's a legitimate IRB process, really, what you're describing.
And so it's just like in college or any research facility, and that's because what we want our kids to experience is that level of preparation, so that these are kids who, for the most part, really do want to go into college research. That's what they really see themselves doing, is seeing them in a STEM field. So we want to give them that experience so they know what's coming. Are they going to be pros at it? No, but they won't be afraid. And when somebody says it, they'll kind of have a sense of what's coming. So they just will have a heads up. They'll be ahead of the game. That's kind of the goal. The other thing is to protect them. Like, that's really it. So when they get out there and somebody says something or does something, they have that comfort. One other aspect of it, too, is so that we know what's coming and we can support them, but also make sure that when they want to submit to a competition, that they can meet the guidelines to the competition. So out of Marquette this year, we had 2 students placed at the Missouri Junior Academy of Science. They both went to state representing Marquette. We have a student going to the International Science and Engineering Fair representing Marquette. We had 2 students placed at the Honors Division Science Fair representing Marquette, and by extension, Rockwood. So, and they all come out of the ASR program. So these are kids who not only are they learning to do it, but they want to do it, and they want to show their work off. So having the IRB process is essential, because when they get to the I stuff, they can't compete if they haven't gone through IRB.
Do you have any students that will earn exempt status instead of full-blown?
I have a few. I have a student this year who's working, interestingly, with a woman who's a researcher at NASA right now on plants, and she's growing plants in Martian soil, which plants typically are completely exempt. I have a couple of students who did just basic, it's really, since it's first year, they can do what we would consider a meta-analysis that's exempt. So we have exempt ones as well,
Yeah.
but the majority of them
Full-blown.
do full-blown. They're all in it. That's what they want to do. 2
other quick questions. Can we assume that Carmen is not here tonight because she hasn't gotten back from Mars yet?
Carmen, it rained. They canceled her lacrosse game, so she would have been here if it had happened right after school. And instead, her coach decided they need to have practice instead, and they couldn't get practice until a little later. So she's at practice probably right now.
Last one for the 3 students. Now that you've gone through this, what effect has that had on maybe your career choices, if any?
Well, I know going into ASR, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. But when I got into this microbiology thing, I really started to feel this passion that I had for it. And that's actually what inspired me. I'm interested in doing a pre-med and sort of majoring in a microbiology or immunology field. So it sort of awakens this understanding of do I really want to do this? And for me, it was yes, absolutely.
My same ideas with Max. I decided to do ASR knowing that I would do something in the science field. I want to go into psychiatry, and my research directly relates to that, and it really has prepared me for what is going to happen in college.
So something a little different. I'm actually wanting to go into political science and foreign policy, but I feel like the research process directly correlates to pretty much any higher education field that you're going into, any educated field that you are endeavoring into, because it's just so precise and it's so extensive. And no matter what you're researching, you're doing something you're passionate about, you're doing it correctly, you're doing it professionally, and you're doing it in a learning setting with well-equipped teachers.
What grades are you in now, each of you?
Sophomore.
I'm a junior.
And I'm a junior as well.
Okay. You said you only come back for one class next year? Yes, sir. Just 1 hour a day?
Yes, sir. I'm doing the early college program.
Oh, okay. That explains that. Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions. One is there a class at Lafayette at this point in time?
There is not a class at Lafayette right now.
Okay. And the other is do you have an opportunity to collaborate with teachers in the other 2 high schools do you get together and share your expertise and your knowledge? And
So Megan has made arrangements for us to get together on occasion throughout the school year, but the majority of the work that we do is through email.
okay.
The
I think your skills are incredible. So we're very fortunate to have you. And I was just thinking, to be able to get together with the other teachers and the other high schools, that would be very valuable.
It's the second year for the courses, or third, fourth? How many years has this been going on?
This is the third year at Marquette, and then it's been going on some time at Summit. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it's been a bit.
It's been at least 6 years at Summit, 3 at Marquette, 3 also at Eureka.
Impressive.
I got a question for, actually a comment for Rowan. Political science, you will take a lot of statistic data like that from college. And then also, if you get my daughter to take this test for you, I want to know what her number is so I can see what her results are. Because she is a classmate of yours, so.
Anyone else? Thank you.
One last
Thank you so much.
question.
Chop it up.
Megan, how's the baby doing?
The baby is great. He was born on Christmas.
Yes. Congratulations.
Christmas baby.
By the way, really quick, you know, I had a teacher in high school who was the baseball coach. I didn't play baseball in high school, but he used to always do that by talking with you about how your name would look on the back of a jersey. And he'd have this way of selling it to anybody to really get you to play baseball. I'm only telling you that story because I can see a PhD behind any one of those names, and it sounds Max Driver, PhD. Just sounds perfect. So don't stop. Keep going. You guys are brilliant, and thank you for sharing a little bit with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
So just before we leave, on behalf of the ASR teachers, we would like to invite all of you to our symposium next year. We have one every year in April where the kids get to present their research. Next year I'll have 17 kids in ASR 2 and 3. They all do oral presentations. And we will have, at least from Marquette, 28 kids in ASR 1.
Fantastic.
Thanks. All right. Next, any motion to approve the naming of the Eureka High School Large Theater, the Susie Elmendinger Theater.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. So we have 2 Eureka High School teachers coming forward. I'll just let you introduce yourselves. How's that sound?
I am Teresa Yackel, and I teach social studies at Eureka High School. I am a alumni of Eureka High School, and I think I covered it. Yeah, and so I work, because I went through the theater program with Susie Almendinger as a student. I now work with her as an assistant sponsor.
My name is Rebecca Dillon. I teach math at Eureka High School, and I'm also an alumni of Eureka High School, and I did theater as well. We were there very close together at Eureka, and I also work with Susie in the theater program after school.
Who was your principal when you were there?
There was this really cool guy
Have you heard of him?
named Dr. Kinder. Is that his
Yeah,
name?
Dr. Keith Kinder, I think. Yeah, I seem to recall.
I think I remember that was his name.
I was only in his office a few times.
I don't think he ever had to talk to me ever.
So we're here talking to you today because Susie Almendinger announced her retirement earlier this year, and as soon as she announced, knowing that we work alongside her, alumni, coworkers, community members, they all approached both of us very adamantly, just kind of like, when are we naming the theater? Can we name the theater now? And we're like, oh, okay, let's figure this out, right? Like let's literally, figure this out. I started sending some emails. Talked to my head principal, said, what do you think? How should we pursue this? And that started the process that brought us before you guys today. And so we just wanted to kind of point out the longevity, specifically of Susie Almendinger, that she has been at Eureka High School for over 28 years. That the longevity itself is just really kind of fantastic when you compare her to the current teachers even and previous people that have gone through, and in that time period, she's really built up the Eureka Theater Company, ETC, as we call it, and she's really built it up into a program that is known not just among theater teachers, but in the community at large as a respectable theater, known for its excellence, but also really known for its student-centered approach. She really does a good job of equipping her students so that they then can be doing the work. She does not hire professionals. She does not, I mean, it's us, right? Like we are the professionals, and all we're doing is helping them and guiding them to find the resources to figure out how to best run this theater, whether that's a musical or a straight play or whatever the situation is. It's student-centered, and that approach has been her hallmark over the past 3 decades at Rockwood.
In addition to what she's done just for the program, in the early 2000s when we were students at Eureka, the only theater we had was what we now call affectionately the small theater, the Dorothy Williams Theater. And if you've been in it, it's not a very large space. And we kind of started, she kind of spearheaded that, starting the process of looking into getting us better facility, and really kind of organized students in that front. Students were like, hey, what can we do? And she kind of helped us put things together, starting that process with community awareness, and then leading students to know what can they do? How can students not just be a part of what's going on in their school, but make a change for the better in their school? And so she helped organize students in efforts to bring awareness and to launch a campaign for a bond issue, and to go to board meetings, and really kind of help students in that process to be advocates for themselves. And really was, and I was there, I was a senior when the bond issue passed, and it was really just kind of instrumental in that being something that happened at Eureka. So the whole reason, when we look back as alumni who were there, the whole reason we think we even have that theater that we can use now is because she helped us to be able to get it. And while I never was able to work in it because I graduated by then, I get to work in it now, and I look at it and think, just how great it is that she was able to help us do that, and acquire that theater to begin with. And then that space now is used regularly for ETC productions, as well as for things like board meetings and musical concerts and speakers. And really behind the scenes of all those things that people come to see in the theater is Miss A taking care of the facilities, sending in for things that need to be repaired or replaced, keeping an eye on all the inner workings of the theater to make sure that it is running smoothly. She does all of that, and she trains students to be able to do things like run the microphones or turn on lights. Those are all her students that she has given that ability to do that, and they're the ones that come in and run that behind the scenes for anything that happens in the theater.
Because of just the dedication that she has to the theater, and because the longevity and the student-centered approach that she is known for, we just felt as coworkers, but also as former students of hers, that it seemed only fitting to name the space in her honor upon her retirement. And we're just really hopeful that the Susie Almendinger Theater can continue to be a place that's known for its excellence, its focus on student-centered education, and its ability to create passionate leaders, just like its namesake. Thank you.
Is there any district policy on naming anything after individuals?
There is, and they have followed the policy.
Okay.
They conferred with Janet, and
I know when we were naming schools that
there,
sometimes
yeah,
that was an issue.
it differentiates naming an actual building and parts of a building or parts of a facility. They have followed the process.
Good.
We have, of course, the Dorothy Williams Theater. There's the Bob Smoot softball field, I think, at Lafayette. Yeah, in Lafayette. And, of course, the schools. You mentioned there's Werther, there's Selvage, there's Blevins. So they've named schools. Haven't done
This
anything.
is the last one that we named after
Blevins was
individuals.
the last one, I think, that we named. But,
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
this does fit under the guidelines. That it could be done.
Good.
What's
Good.
the next step on this?
Next step is you approve it or you
Motion.
deny it.
Do we
It's up
do
to
that
the board
tonight,
at
or
this
do we-
point.
Bob, yep, it's right
we do it
here.
tonight?
It's already moved,
We
so
already
you're,
moved.
We just need,
you're going to vote.
So the motion
Up or
is to
down?
approve the naming of the Eureka High School Large Theater, the Susie Almendinger Theater. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes.
There you go.
Congratulations.
There you
Thank
go.
Very excited. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Susie's retiring this year, isn't she?
She is in just a few weeks.
Her party's next week.
Yeah, her party's next week. We'll send you the e-bike.
We're gonna go plan some more of that.
better get the sign ready.
That's
Right.
exactly, exactly. So,
Thank
you, and we'll be in touch about next steps in terms of how to proceed with this. Thank you.
Well, quick, I just want to make sure the board knows. I stepped out to get a picture of the Authentic Science Research kids, so if you said this, but I want you to know, if you don't, that Teresa is our former board secretary's daughter, is Gretchen Beto's daughter.
Oh,
You did it
so.
second.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
It's so
Sure.
it's so striking. I'm like, but I just wanted to make sure they all knew that. So.
Say hello to your mother.
Oh, I definitely will.
Yes.
She wanted to be here tonight, actually, but she had a prior commitment.
Oh,
she
that'd
misses
be
you guys
great.
very much.
That'd be great.
Hi.
Thank you.
Great job.
I am so glad you said
I know, I
that.
was thinking the whole time.
All right, next we have a proclamation for National School Nurse Day. So I need a motion to approve that the Board of Education proclaim
So
May
move.
8th, 2019 as National School Nurse Day.
So move.
All right, all those in favor, oops, that's a little bit too soon. We do have Amy Weir here. So if you want to say anything, that'd be great. And then who's going to read the proclamation? Okay. Randy Miller is.
I don't really have anything prepared other than to say thank you for your continued support in our efforts to support all of the children of the Rockwood School District. I did just pull together some really quick numbers earlier this week. Last year, because that year is complete, we're still in the middle of, or towards the end of this one, but it's not done yet. So with over 20,000 students in the district, the nurses in the district saw they had 207,000 visits by students. Of that number, 94.9% returned to class. Some of them anticipated, they come in to take a medication, so that's of course what's expected is they just go back to class. It's a part of their routine day. 5% of those children went home due to illness or injury, and 0.017% we called ambulance or transported via EMS. So the school nurses are doing a great job of keeping the kids that they see in the classroom and taking advantage of their educational opportunities. So.
We approved a couple of years ago an advanced certification or something for nurses. It was in the nurses' contract.
Nationally board certified.
Yes, how's that working?
NCSN.
I'm sorry, what?
NCSN, it's on my tag
Okay.
too.
How many have taken?
We just had 2 recently pass. They did the spring testing period. We're up to 16 plus me, so 17 of we have 45 individuals that are school nurses in Rockwood. A few of those are part-time people, one-on-one shadows, that kind of thing. But I think there's about 38 full-time equivalents, so 16 plus me.
Pretty darn good, thanks.
We're getting there,
Yeah.
yes.
You guys do a great job, and I know my daughter probably accounted for 1% of those visits.
We'll look her up, no.
She's in elementary school. She loves going to the school nurse.
And, sometimes going to see the school nurse is just a kid's way of taking a little bit of a mental break during the day. They need to know that there's a caring adult there that'll say, hi, how's your day? I know when I was in a building, I used to tell kids that all the time. You don't have to have, there doesn't have to be anything wrong with you to come see me. Come say hi when you have a free moment. I'll ask you how your day's going, what's going on this weekend. And a lot of times that takes care of it. They don't have to have a stomach ache then.
The important thing in that, Amy, in what you just said is that our nurses throughout the district understand the concept of being a champion, and they take that seriously. And I know there are countless kids who name their school nurse as their champion because of that very reason. They know that whether it's, a lot of kids deal with anxiety, and it's just generalized. It's not anything that's a real horrible situation, but they need that ability to escape for a moment and to have a caring adult that understands. And that's just a tiny example of what our nurses do, of course, but that's, in my opinion, one of the most vital, important things. The more champions we have for our kids, and our nurses get that. Not only they get it, they want to be those champions, and that's very evident in what they do. So we really are blessed, and thanks for your leadership with just a wonderful, wonderful staff of caring adults.
I've been here long enough that I've hired nearly all of the nurses that are currently employed in this district or been involved in their hiring. So I don't know. Perhaps I have a talent for that. I don't know, but I feel like, generally have a really great staff of nurses. They're all wonderful, caring people, excellent nurses, and even better people.
Proclamation National School Nurse Day, May 8th, 2019. Whereas students are the future and, by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow. And, whereas families deserve to feel confident that their children will be cared for when they are at school. And, whereas all students have a right to have their physical and mental health needs safely met while in the school setting. And, whereas students today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in school. And, whereas school nurses have served a critical role in improving public health and in ensuring students' academic success for more than 100 years. And, whereas school nurses address the home and community factors, for example, social determinants, that impact students' health. And, whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children. And, whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, families, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health by promoting wellness and improving health outcomes for our nation's children. And, whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by providing access to care when children's cognitive development is at its peak. And, whereas school nurses are members of school-based teams, for example, school health services, 504 IEP, disaster emergency planning, to address the school population. And, whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make a positive difference for children every day, therefore be it resolved that the National Association of School Nurses celebrates and acknowledges the accomplishments of school nurses everywhere and their efforts of meeting the needs of today's students by improving the delivery of health care in our schools, and offers gratitude for the nation's school nurses who contribute to our local communities by helping students stay healthy, in school, and ready to learn, and keeping parents and guardians at work, not just on this National School Nurse Day, but at every opportunity throughout the year. Dated the 2nd day of May, 2019.
Good. So the motion is to approve that the Board of Education proclaim May 8th, 2019 as National School Nurse Day. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. Thank you. Thank you for all you... All right, we're on to bond issue purchases and related contracts. So Chris Friend is coming up, so I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
Move.
Motion and a second. Yes, sir.
Evening. We only have one facilities-related item on the agenda tonight for approval, and that is for hard barriers. These are actually planters that we will be placing in front of various school buildings throughout the district. We did an audit of all of our school buildings and evaluated where we could add some hard barriers. Those have been a combination of concrete barriers as well as these planters. We brought a contract forward earlier in the year for a construction company to install concrete barriers. These barriers will actually be installed by our grounds crew.
Some schools that are not on this list that don't have them yet?
We gave each administrator and their campus basically a choice if they wanted a combination of concrete barriers and planters or just concrete barriers. So every building's going to have some type of barrier in front of it. It just depends on, if some of our buildings had existing bollards in place, so we would match those. Some wanted to have just planters, some wanted to have a combination. That is correct. A lot of our buildings have garden clubs and PTOs that will maintain these. Yep.
Want to see them?
Yes, me either.
Anything else? Okay, so the motion is to bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. Thank
When are they
you.
going to put those in this summer or start immediately?
We'll actually start immediately. We'll place the order now that we have approval. And when they come in on days like today when we're not able to mow, they'll be out installing these planters.
As Deb's walking up and Chris is walking away, it kind of hit me tonight. Chris does so much work with our bond issue work behind the scene, but you think about it, we always have bond issue purchases, and Chris has to show up at all these board meetings and sit through everything just to get up and talk about these things. I think it's just one of those other byproducts of a bond issue. Chris, I know it's part of your job. You take it in grace, total grace, but thank you for that.
Should get him a better chair.
What'd you say?
Get him a better chair.
All right, next, so we have two. First is a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Dell Computer Corporation for computers and peripherals for the refresh of staff laptops and desktops, as well as other computers for student or general use in the district.
Move.
A motion
Second.
Second. Go ahead, Deb.
So this is just exactly what it says. It's time for our annual refresh, and we evaluated some other vendors, but have decided that Dell has served us well. We have a great working relationship with them. Our people are familiar with them, and the products last and hold up. They're well made, and so we're recommending Dell again. And our staff with needing their 7350s refreshed will be very happy.
Does that 1.7 million purchase? What does that purchase?
Per year, it says 1.7 million. We buy off of a state contract, and so this is just for this year. It's not to exceed that amount.
Okay, but is it buy new computers for the faculty?
Yes, this is for buying new computers for our staff, and also for student areas that have specific needs that can't be addressed through a Chromebook.
You go about the refresh.
So staff laptops we try to refresh every 4 to 5 years.
A record of.
Yeah, we have a record, and we pull our inventory out of Destiny, and we look at it and we compare what they have and what year it was purchased, and then we go from there.
Stagger it like buses, like purchase so much a year?
We do. Okay. We have about a quarter of our staff every year, a little more than that this year, but because we held off on refreshing 1 year, so we got behind because of a budget cut 1 year.
Total would be about 6.8 million if you did it all at once.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Deb, is there this doesn't restrict your ability or the ability of principals to do similar to what Greg Matheson chose to do, like with his library computer lab in his refresh, instead put the high-tech virtual lab in place. So this doesn't force us to be absolutely traditional.
No.
Okay.
This is just, it's easier for us to come one time to the board with an amount, and we just kind of look at what we think we might need and put that maximum amount on there. And then if we do something specific like the Z space, then that's a separate process.
These desktop or laptops or what?
So staff, our teaching certificated staff, our administrators get a laptop or a notebook device, and then our support staff typically get desktops, so like our secretaries.
Good? All right, so the first motion is to approve the bond issue purchases for Dell Computer Corporation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that one passes. The second one is a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from Trinity 3 Technology for purchases of 1-to-1 Chromebooks to be issued to all 6th and 9th grade students for the 2019-20 school year. Motion and second. So go ahead.
So this is our new Chromebooks for our 6th and 9th grade students. We will be taking the Chromebooks from the 8th grade students this year and refreshing down at the lower levels, K through 5. And then some of the schools like to purchase some extras to have on hand. And then also some of our other departments have found that Chromebooks are really handy. They're lightweight. They have a long battery life. And so they're great for different purposes. And so they've been asking to purchase those.
Close are we getting to have one-on-one district-wide?
Pardon?
How close are we getting to having one-to-one district-wide?
We're already at a one-to-one at 6 through 12 where the students take them home. We're at one-to-one in the classrooms, K-5. From a ratio perspective.
Standpoint, we're one-to-one.
Yeah, we're actually, plus we have 30 in the elementary, or 25 in the elementary school libraries. So they can have a whole class come in and have a set.
Just needs that, when we have a question like that, it needs that clarification, because
Yes.
so many, nowadays when people say one-to-one, it really insinuates a program where each kid has a computer that is theirs that they take home. That's only our secondary students. But ratio speaking, we've made great strides with that. That was the first question I asked both Deb and Will when I came to the district, was what's our ratio? And I think was it
1, wasn't it?
Like 2.1 to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
was
close,
pretty good.
and it made sense to say, okay, let's talk about getting to one-to-one, which obviously we're there.
So schoolers don't take theirs home?
Middle school.
The 6
Secondary.
through 8th take them home.
K through 5 don't.
K through 5, they have
In the room.
They have them in their classrooms, and they pull them out of a cart.
So is this part of a rotation that's going to continue?
This is for
Similar
our
to buses.
rotation, similar to the buses.
What do you do with the ones that you're taking away?
So we're on our 4th year, almost 5th year of some of our Chromebooks at the elementary level. So they've been really good about taking the older devices. So the 8th grade student devices that are just now 3 years old, they'll be getting those, and those will refresh their oldest devices. Some of the devices we also keep and use as loaners and spares at the secondary level if a student has a broken device that is their one-to-one take-home.
We get not a refund, like we did on the buses. What's it called?
Trade-in
Do you get a
value.
trade-in?
We do not do a trade-in program with them because we typically use them until they can't be used anymore. We're parting them out. We use them also, I just want to say, we also take the ones that are not in the greatest of shape and send them to the high schools for them to learn how to service Chromebooks on. And then they also provide repair services for our Chromebooks.
Provide computers for Adventure Club also?
We do.
Okay. That pretty well covers it.
Great idea. I love that.
Yeah, it's a really great class. It's really cool to go see.
The freshmen coming in, will they have that computer then throughout their whole high school career then, or?
They have them 9 through 12.
No, but the one that they get
Yep,
as their freshman year, they'll have all the way through 12 then, right?
As long as they take care of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
You have any stats on breakage or whatever it is, lost or whatever?
I haven't run the statistics this year. I was planning to do that this month. I can bring that to you at a later time.
I guess.
It's minimal in reality.
It's not percentage-wise. It's not as significant as I expected it to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. The motion is to approve the bond issue purchases of Trinity 3 Technology for purchases of one-to-one Chromebooks. All those in favor say aye.
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 No one opposed? That passes. All right. Next meeting is May 16th. You're not kidding me. That is at
Summit.
Rockwood Summit. So there's the agenda.
Is that the number 3 high school in the state by chance?
It is.
I heard that, yes.
It
Let me
is.
check.
right,
awards.
anything on the agenda? Anyone have any questions, comments, anything? We good?
Who's doing that, Kathy, the awards?
It's Jamie and Keith.
Oh, we're all going to present?
Right now, you and Jamie, unless somebody else wants to rotate around.
I'll have to wear my suit twice in that month, okay.
Okay, the agenda looks good, future agenda presentations and events to attend. So before we do that, I would just like to acknowledge a Rockwood Summit senior who's been sitting through this whole meeting. Mr. Voss, you want to stand up and tell us why you're here, please?
And the answer is? You're just lucky you weren't here last week.
Well,
Yeah, this is a short one.
you, I'd also like for you to tell the everyone who's here where you have decided to go to school next year. Excellent, excellent. And congratulations, yesterday was senior day for tennis, and you and my son were both seniors, so congratulations. Yes, at Summit. There you go. I will be
No
there
rain,
as
no
usual.
rain.
Yes, with the Gatorade. Oh, and I brought licorice. I have licorice this time too. All right. Anything else? We do have the Rose Awards on Sunday.
And August 22nd was the unanimous availability date for our board retreat, and so Janet has worked through that, and we'll do the morning with admin presentations, have lunch, and then the afternoon we'll do the MSBA presentation. So tentatively, she sent the appointment out. It's on your calendars, and then we'll work through the specific times.
Is that one of the 28? Is that one of the 28 on our calendar?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that today.
I want to make
She
sure
was
you're all
busy.
aware.
Her finger got tired sending us appointments. All right. Anything else on future agenda presentations?
I want to compliment the last two board meetings have been excellent. The presentations, I'd like to see those as many times as possible. You guys have done a great job.
Agreed.
Those are outstanding.
Good feedback. So almost kidding.
Anything else? All right. We adjourn the meeting.